All right, here we go. This is a real quick review over 3.1 graphing in standard form. I have the problem written up here. This was number 15 off the worksheet. I think 4.1 B side, if I'm not mistaken. All right, this problem is in standard form. Okay, I want to kind of re-emphasize that. And I don't know if I talked so much about that on Monday. It's in standard form. Okay, there's no parentheses. It's very easy to identify A, B, and C. If you struggle with any part of this type problem, I strongly recommend that you write down what A, B, and C are. If you don't get A, B, and C correct, you can hang up the whole problem. If you misidentify B as -2 instead of +2, or you put an X there or do something weird, you're going to miss the whole problem. Okay? It also might be a good idea to get in the habit of writing down A, B, and C, because when we do the quadratic formula next week, you'll need to know A, B, and C just like that, okay, in order to be able to plug it in the formula. All right, so we have A, B, and C. Our first step is to figure out what X is. We have a nice formula, -b over 2a. In this problem, it would be -2 over 2 times 1/3, if I'm not mistaken. That would be -2 over 2/3. Your calculator will do that for you, but just as a review, what do we do when we have a fraction on the bottom? How do we get rid of a fraction on the bottom? Bring it up to the top, and what do? You multiply, but what do you have to do with the fraction? You flip it. So this is the same as -2 times 3 over +2. I bring it up to the top and flip it and multiply. The 2's cancel out, so what do I get? I just get -3. If you struggled with that, if you weren't sure, if you don't remember that step, you can do this right here on your calculator. Okay, -2, fraction, and then 2, ABC 3. Everybody try it. Okay, and it'll spit out -3 100% of the time. Okay, I understand right off the bat. I knew that 1/3 is probably what threw you off. Okay, A is a fraction. Okay, who cares? We can still do it exactly the same. Okay, anybody not get -3? Anybody not get -3? All right, so good. So in our vertex, right, we've got half the vertex. We now know that the X value of the vertex is -3. Okay, how do we go? The next step, how do we find Y? Plug it in. Exactly right. So in my original equation right here, Y equals 1/3 times -3 squared plus 2 times -3 minus 1. If you're super duper and you want to try that by hand, great. I'm not. If I'm doing this problem right now on my desk, I'm going to grab a calculator, I'm going to type it in. Okay, everybody practice. Get your calculator out and practice. 1, ABC 3, parentheses, -3. Make sure you use the negative, not the minus. Parentheses, squared, plus 2, parentheses, -3, parentheses, minus 1. Okay? Everybody should have their calculator out and be practicing. Okay? You've got to be able to get -4 100% of the time. Okay? If you don't, if you're not getting -4, then you just need more practice. Okay? Because your calculator will do it for you. There's no reason for you to miss the problem. Questions? Anybody have any questions? All right, so we do all of this, we use our calculator, and we get -4, correct? So -4 is our Y of our vertex. So we now have our vertex. Right? I'm going to go ahead and start my graph right here. -3, 1, 2, 3, -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right here. Is the graph going up? Is it opening up or is it opening down? It's opening up because why? A is positive. That means our graph is going up, but that doesn't help us. It's nice to know that and know that the points are going to be up here somewhere, but I need those points. I need 2 additional points. So I make a little tiny T-chart, right? And I got -3, -4. That's the vertex right there in the middle. What do I want to try? And we need to talk about this a little bit. Tell me 2 more points to try.
-2 and -4.
All right, -4 right here and -2 right here are excellent points. Those are the points I told you to use on Monday. Okay? Does anybody have some other points maybe that are a little easier than -2 and -4, which would be fine? Why is 0 right here and negative 6? Why are those so much easier to do? One in particular. Why is 0 so much easier of a point to pick? Anybody? Well, it just makes everything go away. What happens when I plug in 0 right there? All that stuff goes away. When I plug in 0 right there, all that stuff goes away, and instantly, what do I get? Negative 1. So if 0 gives me negative 1, then what does negative 6 have to give me? Negative 1. What I recommend, guys, is that you check that and you plug in negative 6 using your calculator and make sure that you get negative 1. But if you set it up, and this is 3 to this way and this is 3 this way, then these two values will always be the same. Okay? Always. So we go to plot those. 3, 4, 5, 6, negative 1 would be right here. 0, negative 1 would be right here. And here's our parabola. Hitting all 3 points, arrows on the ends, and we're done. If they ask you to graph the axis of symmetry, it's just an imaginary line that runs right here through the vertex. And the equation would be x equals negative 3. If they asked you to label the vertex, then you would simply put the point down there, negative 3, negative 4. That's all that they're asking. Okay? Questions? Any questions on this? This is in standard form. We got 2 more forms to learn today. Okay, this one is standard form.
Does it get harder?
No, actually it gets easier. It actually gets easier. Okay, questions? Nixon? How did I get negative 6 and 0? I picked to begin with negative 2 and negative 4, but I asked, I said, are there any values that would be easier? And somebody said 0 and negative 6. And so I want to kind of lead you down to start picking 0 and negative 6 if that makes it easier. And in this case, 0 is easier because it makes all this stuff go away. Right? What is 0 squared times 1/3? 0. What is 0 times 2? 0. So all of that stuff goes away and I'm just left with negative 1 and I get it like that. Right? I could have picked negative 2 and gotten some point like right in here somewhere and it would have been okay. But 0 just made life easier. It made everything go away. Okay? To answer your question. All right, anybody else have a question? All right, let me stop right here.